Hey everyone, welcome to another Game Grid video. Today we're going to be talking with Drew about his win at the Pro Tour Qualifier in Vegas over the weekend and what he did at the Pro Tour Qualifier, how he felt it went, and what he's going to do to prepare for the Pro Tour, which is happening when?
October 25th and 26th, I believe, are the dates for it. So, yeah, it's the last weekend in October.
Awesome. So last weekend you decided to drive down with Aaron and Julian to go play in the Pro Tour Qualifier down in Vegas.
Yep, we actually picked up Joe Wilkerson as well.
Awesome.
He lives somewhere close to Sandy at like 5 in the morning, so.
Nice. That's kind of a last minute thing because Josh couldn't make it, right?
Yeah, Josh put in, there was some work conflict. He had the time scheduled off, and they're like, oops, we lost the paperwork, and he's like,
You're like, thanks, life happens.
Yeah, so unfortunately Josh couldn't make it, but yeah, the four of us made the drive overnight to Vegas and got there. There was a little bit of a snafu originally because we thought it was at the actual card shop that was hosting the event, but it was at a convention center 30 minutes away. And so we were like, we have barely enough time to make it. Fortunately, when we showed up, they were apparently delayed as well, and the event didn't get started till 12:30.
Gotcha. Okay, so and you guys all just had to play the same list, right? A Delver list?
Yeah, all of us played the same deck list, except for Joe. Joe played Mono Green.
Okay.
We all played Delver, and I think there was one change in the sideboard. I really wanted 6 counter spells between the main deck and the sideboard, and I think Julian swapped one of the Dissipate for a third Phantasm Limit.
Okay.
So basically, other than that, it was pretty much the same. The deck list is up on the website. I wrote a tournament report on it, so the deck list is on there.
Make sure to go check it out. PlayGameGrid.com. You guys know where the website is.
Yeah, go check it out. I go over the matches, the deck list. Oh, I don't really go over the deck list. I just kind of say, this is what I'm playing. And like,
We've talked about Delver in the past. Nothing too out of the ordinary from what we've talked about before.
No
surprises.
Not really. We had a main deck Mental Misstep. That was Josh's idea. He's like, Mental Misstep's really good right now. And it is pretty good. It catches a lot of things. In the mirror match, it catches like, 20 cards or something like that. Ponders, Vapor, Snags, Cataxian Probes, Delvers. So there's plenty of cards you get in the mirror match with Mental Misstep. Versus like the Naya decks, they have like 8 1-mana accelerators, so it's fine there.
Catching early birds.
Yep, exactly. And hitting the mana accelerators is really good in that matchup. So being able to like catch a mana accelerator on turn effectively 0 can be really good.
Gotcha. Okay, so now if I remember right, the Pro Tour coming up is going to be Modern, right?
That's correct. Yep.
So that's going to be definitely a shift from playing standard Delver to a Modern list. Do you already have ideas of what you're looking to play come?
I actually have no idea really. For the PTQ season in Modern, I played like a Lingering Souls, kind of, I guess you could call it a Cobblade deck. The idea was there was a couple equipment in the deck, you would get some Lingering Souls out. There were Snapcasters in the deck, Path to Exile, Scripted Commands, card like that. So it was like a blue-white kind of mid-range-ish control deck. I did okay with it. I know, like, there was a couple points where I was in contention for top 8, a couple PTQs. A couple misplays, though, not being 100% familiar with the deck, and the format kind of, I think, cost me a match here and there, which ultimately cost me like a top 8 here and there. So this time I'm hoping to be a little bit better prepared. The one unfortunate thing about Modern versus Standard is in Standard I get to at least play once a week in Friday Night Magic, so that's nice, at least being in, even if it's only like, kind of a more casual environment, it's still a tournament structure.
You get to practice playing the deck, even if, you get to learn the nuances of your deck, you get to play against different opponents. Sometimes people show up with crazy homebrew stuff, you at least get to shuffle up the cards and get familiar with how it interacts with itself.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, definitely I want to do a lot of preparation for this. Pro Tour is a big deal. I'm really looking forward to it, so I want to show up and at least do reasonably well. So I'm going to have to figure out what I need to do for the Modern format. Okay.
So talking about the Pro Tour Qualifier, obviously, got to be happy with how, it went for you because you won. Is there anything you felt, if you look back, you think, oh, I would have rather had this in the deck, I would have liked to make this change, I felt this didn't quite perform to my expectations?
I think I actually, it's pretty close to where I would have liked the deck. I could definitely see maybe going up to 3 Sword of War and Pieces. We were playing 2. I won a lot of games of Sword of War and Pieces. literally my semifinal and my final matches were all the games I won were because of the sword. I don't think, especially game 3 versus the Nyapot player in the finals in the last game, there's no way I would have won without sword. Like, I was basically all in on it. I'm like, alright, so I have his Delver on turn 2, I managed to Mise and flip it blindly off a Vapor Snag. I just tapped out for a sword because I knew what was in his hand off a Taxing Probe. I'm like, I'm going to kill you in 2 turns unless you draw an answer in those 2 draw steps. And he didn't, I won. And so I definitely feel like sword was very strong. I beat through a couple control decks that had Lingering Souls with it. So I can definitely see a case for 3 swords. I tend to like counterspells a little bit more maybe than some of the other players. I would maybe want to play 4 mana leaks. I think 3 was fine. That's just my personal style. I like having mana leaks. There are some situations where mana leaks bad, and so you might not want to have it. So I think 3 to 4. I mean, honestly, either way is probably fine. 3.5. That feels like that might be the right number.
So, of all the decks you played, you talked about your tournament report, Nyapod, plenty of mirror matches. What matchup do you feel was the hardest for you throughout the day at the PTQ?
Honestly, like...
Who gave you the most trouble out of all your opponents?
The funny thing is, I think the Freets matchup in the quarterfinals, I actually felt like a dog in that matchup. Game 1, he just steamrolled me. He just was like, mulch, looting, Lingering Souls, Elishnorn on turn 5. And I had no counter spells, and I was just like, I'm dead? Like, alright, that was fun. And then game 2, I had to mold a 5, and my hand was not that great. And he, like, was doing his thing. He's, like, looting, mulch.
You're like,
I'm like, oh, man, he's setting up. He's gonna get it. He's gonna get an Elishnorn. He's gonna get whatever else he has in his deck. And at one point, I drew a Gitaxian Probe when he had 7 lands in play, and he had, like, 5 cards in his hand. Like, what is going on over there? So I'm like, Gitaxian Probe, and he's like, 5 lands.
Oh.
So I was like, I guess I'll kill you with my 2 creatures I drew. Like, that was fun, right? Like, so that matchup I actually felt, like this is actually fairly rough, but fortunately I got a little lucky in game 2, and then game 3 I pretty much drew the nuts, and he had to mold a 5 and got stuck, kept a 1-land hand with the Pilgrim, and I had a gut shot for his Pilgrim. He did draw a 2nd land on his draw step and had a mulch, and so he actually played out his game like normal, like he was like mulch, played a land, was playing spells and stuff, but I drew like 3 counter spells and flipped a Delver on turn 1, and then had a Geist, and then managed to kill him. So
awesome. So in a Freets deck, it's similar to kind of what we talked about Spencer's deck. Maybe it's a little different. It plays green, right?
Yep.
But the same. It's a recursion deck. It's looking to get the guys out of the graveyard, or is it just ramp?
No, it's definitely a Reanimator deck. It has Avacyn's Pilgrims and Birds of Paradise to provide some of that mana acceleration. It plays Lingering Souls both as a way to defend for the deck and as a way to kill people quickly, especially once you get an Elishnorn, you've got like 3/3 flyers, and that's a lot of damage very quickly.
So we've talked about those type of decks in the past. They're effective, and obviously these ones, tweaked a little bit more, running green to speed it up, like Drew's saying. So other than the Freaks deck, you played quite a few mirror matches. How much Delver did you see there?
I played 0 mirror matches.
Really?
Yes, I did not play a single Delver deck the entire tournament. There were, in the top 8, there were 3 Delver decks. Mm-hmm. That was me, Julian, and then another guy was just playing a normal Delver deck.
Okay.
Alex Sittner was there as well. He lives in Salt Lake City. He was playing a more mid-range Delverless Delver deck. He had like Consecrated Sphinxes, Gideons, Tamios.
And that's something we've talked about in previous videos. The Delver mantra got put on a deck type even if it doesn't actually have the Delver in it.
Yeah, so he was playing that kind of mid-range blue-white deck. There was 3 Nyapod decks, basically all the same deck list. It's actually a deck they were all pretty close to what Justin's been playing recently.
And we're planning on doing a deck tech with Justin here pretty shortly, so you'll be able to see the type of deck we're talking about, what its goals are, what the list looks like, so you can look forward to that soon.
And then the last deck was the Fruits deck I played in the quarterfinals. Someone made a joke actually when we were all playing because it was entirely coincidental, but all the islands and plains were on one side of the table in the quarterfinals, and all the forests and mountains were on the other side. So, someone was like, "Oh, that's convenient,"
Just reestablishes the fact that island's the most powerful card in Magic.
Well, actually, all the islands got knocked out in the quarterfinals except for me. So,
awesome. Well, that's and so Julian, he was a champ for you guys. He pulled quite the day, I hear.
Yeah, he ended up driving. He got a new car. He has a Corolla, and he drove it all the way through.
He'd been up for hours.
Yeah, he's like, no, it's totally cool. He's like, I can go about 24 hours or so. So definitely big props to Julian. Thanks very much.
And he made his two top 8s in a row for him.
Yeah, it's really impressive. He played 2 different decks. He played Red Green
awesome.
at the Salt Lake PTQ, and then he played Delver here. He actually was number 1 in the Swiss. He was forced to play his last 2 rounds, whereas I just took the 2 draws. Granted, that put me in a lower seed, so that way I ended up being on the draw for 2 of the 3 matches. But better to guarantee the top 8
for sure,
rather than play it and then end up something crazy happens and I end up not in the top 8. So
awesome. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about? We've gone over the Delver list. There's not too much more we want to break down the list. We have it online. We've talked about it in other videos.
I really playing it at the PTQ. I think I really do agree with what LSV and PV have been saying about the deck, Lewis Scott Ferguson, Paulo Vitor, Dama de Rosa, which is basically you are an aggro control deck, and that before I've tried taking Delvers out, playing the control sideboard and everything, but I think they're absolutely right. Basically, you should just be playing your aggressive creatures like Delver. I won a lot of games, I feel like, for free off of Delver of Secrets. And that's one thing I think about the deck that I really recognized over the course of the PTQ was that the deck possesses a lot of cards that just absolutely give you free wins. Delver of Secrets will give you free wins. Guides of St. Trap will give you free wins. Sword of War and Peace will give you free wins. So all these cards, like
cards you can write on the back of it. Let's go, guys.
Yeah, and sometimes you're going to be playing games where you're grinding them out. You're like, trying to set up a winning position with Snapcaster Mages, or trying to set up some tricky plays with Restoration Angel. But there were a lot of games where you're just like turn 1 Delver, flip my Delver on turn 2, and just
go to town.
Yeah, just get in there. Or like versus some decks, you're just like Geist on turn 3. If you don't have an answer for this guy, I'm gonna kill you in 2 turns with him. Sword of War and Peace, if you're relying on creatures like Restoration Angel or Lingering Souls to block my flyers, Sword of War and Peace will just let me get through and do 10, 12 damage to you, or however much damage.
And we've talked about how awesome Restoration has turned out to be. But Sword of War and Peace is like, yeah, check me out, let's do this.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely. I think just playing the deck, like our deck was very similar to Lewis Scott Vargas' winning deck list from the World Magic Cup qualifier. So playing that kind of deck list, I think I don't think there's much I would really change about it, because all those cards give you the ability to have the free win. You're still a blue deck. You can still set up and play the kind of longer game with Snapcaster Mages, Vapor Snags, and Ponders, and try and set up and eke out those wins. But just having access to 12 cards or whatever, or 10 cards that just give you free wins, it's really powerful in the deck.
So one more quick question. We talked about your previous sideboard in one of our other videos about how it kind of shifts the deck into the slower control deck. Was your sideboard like that for this event, or were you more on focusing what the deck was doing and just complementing what your matchups were?
Yeah, pretty much I leave the Delvers in, I leave the Geist in, I leave the Swords in.
None of that transformation we talked about?
Yeah, occasionally I would take the Swords out on the draw if I thought they were bringing in like cards like Ancient Grudge. But pretty much my sideboard was, just cards that are stronger in certain matchups, like Celestial Purge. I had 3 of those, and I played 2 zombie decks, so that was really nice. Being able to have access to those, especially with Snapcaster, is really good. I had 1 Gideon, but that was more for control mirror matches. The idea is, you guys are like racing back and forth, and you get a Gideon out.
Say, everyone's running into this guy.
And you either buy yourself a couple turns, or you force them into bad attacks to be able to block effectively for their creatures. So we had a Gideon, a couple Timelies to help with the aggro matchups.
We talked about how strong Timely is. If you're playing white, most likely that card's in your sideboard because it's such a strong sideboard card.
A couple Dissipates, and then the 4th Mana Leak in the sideboard just to board in for the control matchups. And I told Josh, because he only had 1 Dissipate, I'm like, I really want a 6 counter spell, hard counter. Well, I mean, Mana Leak's kind of a hard counter spell, but a 6 good counter spell between the sideboard and the main deck. And I was really happy about that because, like I said, I played a free deck in the quarterfinals. Dissipate was good there. And then I played 2 Esper control decks in the first 2 rounds. Dissipate was awesome there. So I was happy about that. There was I'm trying to think of all the other cards. There's an extra Dismember. That was going to be for the mirror match for, Restoration Angels, mostly Delvers, flip Delvers. Didn't play any mirror matches, so I never really brought it in, but it was there. Another mental misstep, again, kind of just for the mirror match.
For sure.
I brought
Plenty of cards to hit.
Yeah, I think I brought it in versus the Freed stack. boarded it out, and then I think I decided to bring it back in game 2. It didn't really come up, but my logic was you can hit mana accelerants with it, and it's actually not terrible to hit looting with it, because they're trying to
get things in the graveyard.
filter through their deck, and they're trying to fill up their graveyard. So being able to disrupt that, maybe if they have a sketchy draw, you can hit them on that. So
awesome. Well, we're going to keep this one a little short. We're going to try to keep our videos in more manageable bite-sized chunks for you guys to watch. So congratulations to Drew on winning the Pro Tour Qualifier. We're looking forward to seeing him down at, do you know where is it at?
It's in Seattle.
In Seattle
Yeah.
in October. And keep checking out playatgamegrid.com for more deck lists and more videos that we're putting up. And we're going to continue doing these videos because we've gotten a pretty good response. So thanks for watching, everybody.
Yep, thanks, guys.
Have a good night.